Well, welcome to this edition of the Botanical Medicine Study Course with me, Stephanie Georgia, your host and instructor for the online course in all things botanical medicine. Welcome to all new viewers and a big shout out to all new and long-term subscribers. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Now, at the time of the posting of this video, we are in those last glorious days of summer in the Northern Hemisphere. Many of us, our children and those we love, are back in school. And if not, it's imminent. And while this time is a returning to schedules and rhythms, which is always nice, it's often a time when we are all being exposed to the newest crops of viruses and bacteria that come along with gathering in groups. So in the interest of helping us all prepare for the oncoming inevitable bouts of colds and flu, for this week's Herb of the Week, we will be exploring an incredible gift from nature, and especially it's from North America, and it is called golden seal. Now, the Latin binomial for golden seal is Hydrastis canadensis. And for you wannabe Latin experts, the word canadensis in botanical terms means some sort of plant associated with Canada. So, oh, Canada, help, thank you. Now, as a lifelong citizen of the United States who has had the pleasure of working with Canadians on various projects and associations, I'm sensitive to the fact that Canada sort of gets lost in the mix when it comes to North America. So hats off to Canada for this amazing plant. Hydrastis canadensis is a perennial herb in the buttercup family, which is also known as Ranunculensiae, and it's native to North America. It's distinguished by its thick yellow knotted root stock. And that's where the word golden comes from. And it is this root stock that we obtain the most amazing healing medicine. The root stock is technically called a rhizome, which means the plant propagates itself underground through an elaborate system of these underground structures. The stem is purplish and hairy, and this is above ground, obviously. And the yellow below ground stem, which is called the rhizome, is very yellow. And the stems above ground are very hairy, and they can grow anywhere from 6 to 19.5 inches tall or 15 to 50 centimeters. Now, for me, the leaves look very much like maple leaves, which may be why the plant is also called canadensis. Now, the plant produces at the end of each stem a single daisy-looking white flower. And if it's pollinated, it produces a raspberry-looking like fruit that basically contains 2 seeds. Now, golden seal was popular with Native Americans, and the plant is native to southeastern Canada and the eastern United States. And it grows really well in mesic forests under deciduous trees. It's a bit difficult to grow, and we will cover this later in the video, but for now, keep in mind that golden seal really is a forest plant with a long history of wildcrafting and harvesting, almost to extinction for this variable plant. In fact, the organization United Plant Savers, and please see the link below to find more about this very important and lovely organization. They have quite a entry on golden seal, all the important information, but also the fact that it's being harvested almost to extinction. So we need to be careful with this plant. Now, golden seal was first documented by European colonists in 1769. And now, while this documentation is important, according to Mrs. Grieve, in her landmark book, A Modern Herbal, golden seal was introduced to the United Kingdom in 1760. And at that time in I guess it was England, UK, it was under the name of Warneria. So I'm just quoting that. I've never heard that, but there you go. At the time, credit for understanding the use of golden seal was given to the natives of North America who shared the knowledge with the colonists. Now, the natives used golden seal for stomach and urinary complaints, but also used the juice as a dye for face paint, and they also used it for their clothing. Now, after the introduction to England, golden seal was later grown in Scotland and Ireland, as the moist landscape and forests of those areas and lack of consistent sunshine was just perfect for this plant. And it was so popular that in the early 1900s, the United States Department of Agriculture called attention to the increasing demand for the plant and the decreasing availability of naturally growing golden seal. And there's lots of reasons for that. And one of the more unpleasant parts of that is deforestation. Now, before we get started, I want to give you all a trigger warning. This plant is bitter tasting, which indicates the presence of many healing substances. Sometimes when you taste something and it's like, whoa, it really means that it's strong. Now, I'm most familiar with the root, using that medicinally, but many traditions, including the native traditions, utilize the leaves. I just have no experience with that. Its main quality of golden seal is the effect that it has on mucous membranes of the body, particularly the respiratory and digestive systems. Now, interestingly enough, these two systems, the respiratory and the digestive, are closely related. Both in Chinese medicine and Orthodox medicine is noticing the connection. And basically, food allergies are related to things like asthma. So there you go. So they're just starting to see Orthodox medicine, in my opinion, is catching up with traditional medicine. Now, from 1850 to 1960, the United States Pharmacopoeia recognized the therapeutic efficacy of golden root. And in 1969, it appeared in the French Pharmacopoeia. And that's basically the encyclopedia of approved plants, as well as in other official pharmacopoeias. And in the 1970s and 80s, golden seal gained popularity after some people claimed it had a stimulating effect on the immune system. Now, the key symptom for using golden seal is infection, and basically bacterial infection, whereas its sister plant that's often in combination with it in products that you purchase over the counter is echinacea. And echinacea is used for viral infections. So the big symptom differentiation is bacterial infection, means very high fever and usually some sort of yellowish or green discharge, either coughing it up or blowing it out of your nose or on your skin, where viral infections usually don't have such high fevers and the discharge is not yellowish. Now, sometimes viral infections can develop into bacterial infections, but they are different. So you can see on your slide there, it's antibacterial. It's very effective antibacterial. In fact, I've had several people come to me clinically with MERS, which MERS, which is like the nuclear bomb holocaust of bacterial infections that nobody can figure out what to do with these poor people. And I have actually had success with golden seal, plus other things and diet, etc. But it's a very powerful antibacterial. It also has anti-inflammatory properties. Obviously, it's a bitter, okay? And when something is bitter, it's really good for the liver. So it's why it's really good for the liver. It's called hepatic. It's an alterative, which means it's nourishing, is all around healing. So not only is it like cleaning out, infections, it also helps nourish the system. Now, this word anti-catarrhal, that is a fancy word for catarrhal is basically coughing up things, various substances. And anything that's anti-catarrhal means it really helps stop those coughs, especially what I found personally and also clinically, when you're at the end of a cold and you're starting to breathe normally again, but you just keep coughing up like various, clear stuff. This really helps with that end stage experience. It also has laxative properties. It also is an emmenagogue, which means it brings on the menstrual cycle, and it's called an oxytocic, which basically means it stimulates labor. And the Native Americans actually used this to enhance labor. Now, there's all kinds of wonderful constituents in golden seal. And there's a whole class of them, and they're called isoquinoline alkaloids. And these are responsible for the antibacterial properties, so prized in golden seal. And the big one is called hydrastine. That's one of those alkaloids. But the really amazing thing that actually gives it its yellow color is something called berberine. And this is the constituent that really helps stimulate immune enhancement and also gives it its antispasmodic properties. It also helps stimulate the uterus as well as the digestive system, particularly the colon. So this is what we owe our great gratitude to this plant. But you also need to realize in any type of botanical medicine, it's not one single constituent that does the trick. It's usually a combination, and the combination of all these different lovely chemicals balances one another out and really makes it quite healing and less damaging to the body. Now, there are, of course, cautions, and because it usually is expensive. So if you're getting a golden seal product that's really cheap, you're probably not getting golden seal, or it might just have just a little bit in it. So you really need to know your companies and you need to know your labels. And because of its properties, because of those emmenagogue and oxytocic properties, please do not use this while you're pregnant. There are other things you can use if you have infections while you're pregnant, because this may cause a miscarriage. I'm not also suggesting do not use this if you live in a state where it's difficult to get reproductive care. It's not safe. So just avoid this when pregnant. It's also not to be used while you're breastfeeding. It's not good because it will get through the breast milk and not do good things to your infant. Now, it's also contraindicated for people with high blood pressure. The other big thing is to not take this herb for more than 2 weeks. Now, if you have an infection with a high fever and you're expelling all kinds of red and green and yellow discharges, and you're still really sick after 2 weeks, you need to get to your physician or healthcare practitioner very soon, because you shouldn't have an infection that long. You can get into very serious problems. We're talking organ damage and things like that. So if you're still sick after 2 weeks, get somewhere for professional care, and you should get better within a week. And if you take it for that second week, it kills any vestiges, so you don't get what's called an echo pattern of disease, which often happens with antibiotics. People stop taking them before the entire infection has been killed, and then it just comes back. So if you are on antibiotics, take them according to your direction. You can take Golden Seal along with this, as long as you're not pregnant or have high blood pressure or breastfeeding, and finish both of them, and you should be doing quite well. Now, for those of you who would like to take Hydrastis or Golden Seal, and you have high blood pressure or you're pregnant and breastfeeding, never fear, homeopathy is here. And I know there have been numerous attempts to label homeopathy as either quackery or dangerous, but I can tell you from personal experience, clinical experience, and working with children and animals who have no expectations or preconceived notions, which means it is not placebo. An infant has no placebo, okay? None. Same with animals. They don't have placebo. They don't have expectations of what a bunch of little white pellets are going to do for them. Homeopathy works. It really does. Now, homeopathy is a very diluted substance. Okay, we're talking it's diluted like hundreds of times. And it can either be animal, vegetable, or mineral. And by diluting and succussing, which basically means shake, this unlocks the energetic effects of the substances. Now, healing, as you know, takes place on several levels. It takes place on physical, energetic, spiritual, and emotional. And what homeopathy is energetic medicine that stimulates the body to heal in certain ways. Now, just as there's a materia medica for plant medicine, that's, your basically your dictionary for your herbs, there materia medica for homeopathy. And when it comes to plants, and again, homeopathy can be animal, vegetable, or mineral. When it comes to plants, there's a lot if overlap, and sometimes identical overlap, between a homeopathic remedy picture, which is basically the description of what the remedy does, and the mechanisms and actions of the plant. And it's really interesting, let me tell you. When I was working with pregnant women, I had the absolute joy of working in a midwifery clinic. And you need to be careful with pregnant women. You don't want to harm the women or the baby, and you want to maintain the pregnancy. People go to midwifery clinics because they want to carry their pregnancy to term and have a baby. But I often relied solely on homeopathy because I knew it was safe for them and their babies. The major side effect of homeopathy, if it's used in clinical doses, let's say 10x or 30C or less, is there is no effect, meaning it just doesn't work. So that's the side effect, doesn't work. So there you have it. There's really interesting research coming out of Europe, mainly the UK, Germany, and France, on homeopathy. Each one of those countries includes homeopathy and botanical medicine in its healthcare options. There was a recent study in one of the journals, and it featured Hydrastis for nasopharyngitis. And nasopharyngitis is a fancy medical term for the common cold as an infection, basically meaning yellowish discharge from the nose. And this study concluded that Hydrastis was an important remedy to relieve symptoms and heal the underlying condition. So this is a really good thing. Now, the key symptom, if you would use hydrastis in a homeopathic intake, would be problems caused by the rhinopharyngitis, which is a nasal infection. And this is the expression of a thick, viscous, sticky, runny, yellowish, irritating discharge. And you can use this both in children and in adults. So here's another reason to learn your Latin binomials in herbal medicine. You can moonlight in homeopathy when you're not feeling safe with an herbal remedy. And homeopathy does not include the risks associated with certain plants. And in all cases, it can taste better. And for hydrastis, this is definitely a consideration. Now, because hydrastis golden seal is difficult to grow, golden seal tends to be expensive, and you can get this in tea form, capsules. You can get the bulk dried root, and you can also get this in tinctures. Now, remember, it's super bitter. I mean, this does taste like bile in my experience. So I suggest for those who can swallow pills to stick to pills. And if you are going to do a tincture, I suggest a glycerin tincture because it does taste better. If you cannot find such a tincture, then you can put your dosage of your alcohol or vinegar tincture into some sort of juice to blunt the flavor, or just choke it down, as the song says, in a spoonful of honey. Now, there's a product I really enjoy and prescribe frequently in the United States. It's called neutralizing cordial. There's all sorts of stuff on Etsy that's available, eBay. The two companies that I'm familiar with is Herb Farm and also Eclectic. And this is a lovely combination of golden seal with other herbs and peppermint. So it just tastes a little bit better. And this is really good at the end of a chest cold. It's fabulous for that because it will help dry up the remaining mucus. And it also tonifies and nourishes both the digestive and the respiratory system. And again, not longer than 2 weeks. And now, obviously, and I know all of you are familiar with this, there's a popular way to take golden seal, and it's in combination with echinacea. Obviously, go for that. But do not take golden seal any more than 2 weeks, however you do that. Now, there are some special considerations. Its golden seal has been listed under the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora. And it's been under protection since 1997. And demand has increased. It's really increased because it's effective. It's very effective. And what the demand has done is motivated in research into propagation and cultivation techniques. And according to the USDA, we need to educate consumers about appropriate uses of the herb in order to reduce overconsumption. And one of the wonderful organizations that's doing this is United Plant Savers. It's a fabulous organization in Ohio, of all places. And for people who are into botanical medicine history in the United States, Ohio really was the go-to place in the 1800s and early 1900s for botanical medicine. This kind of was considered the frontiers of research and usage. And so it's very appropriate that United Plant Savers is there. And I find it interesting that the logo for United Plant Savers is golden seal. So this should tell you something. So definitely check out that link, follow them on social media, all those wonderful things. I think they have a podcast somewhere. I'm sure they do. So just find out more about them. So if you would like to be part of the solution in saving the golden seal, maybe participate in growing some yourself. And it's once again time to plug my favorite publishers, Chelsea Green Publishing, that has so many amazing books. And I've talked quite a bit about their book on Chinese medicinal herb gardening. Well, there's another excellent title, and this is just amazing. This book is just so amazing. Now, I own the green one you see on your screen, and Christmas is around the corner. So guess what I'm asking for Christmas? And you can get this on, you can get this as an ebook, but I just like, for these types of books, I really like the hard copy. I really do, because you just can flip around to different pages and look at stuff, and I just prefer it. So the authors, Jeff and Melanie Carpenter, they just, everything you would possibly want to know about medicinal herb gardening, they will tell you about it. Now, golden seal, they have a whole chapter on golden seal, of course, and its life cycle can be separated into three distinct stages of development. And it really takes 1 to 2 years for golden seal to be ready to harvest if you want to use it medicinally. And it's a shade plant. And back in the dark ages, when I was, in school, we would visit these different herb producers, and there was this one grower that was growing things under a picnic table because they really don't like direct sunlight, because it's a forest plant that grows on the bottom of the forest. So if you have a forest nearby or a big backyard with lots of trees, or picnic tables you don't need to use for picnics, this is definitely the plant to grow. But it's very, the chapter in the Organic Medicinal Herb Farmer is very detailed, and I highly recommend, if you want to grow this plant, to check out that book. So, however you want to use this amazing gift from Canada and parts of the northeastern United States, I just highly recommend getting to become very familiar with this plant. It's truly, truly a gift. So make sure to check out the links in the program notes for all the wonderful links that I give to people. They're really fun. I check them out myself before I put them there. There's information on all kinds of things. And until next time, be well.